Hello, I'm John Dacey, Superintendent for Los Angeles Unified School District. One of the most important roles we play as adults is to protect the safety and welfare of our students by providing a safe learning environment for every single child. The training you are about to watch is part of our district-wide educational campaign to help improve our safety, policies, and procedures that protect children. Every adult, teacher, cafeteria worker, coach, bus driver, office clerk, or other valued staff must take the responsibility to report suspected child abuse as seriously if we were protecting our own child. First of all, it's the law. Second, it's the right thing to do, of course. When students succeed, we all succeed. We all know that learning rigorous material can be challenging for any student, but children that have suffered trauma have an even harder time focusing on learning. We must do everything possible to protect our students by learning how to recognize and report suspected child abuse. This presentation will provide us with vital answers to questions such as, what is child abuse and how can you tell when a child is being abused? And what is the required law and district policy when you learn a suspected child allegation of abuse? Thank you for your attention to this serious and important matter. Together, we can succeed in providing the safest environment possible for every single youth.
Hello, I'm Ryan Best from the District Safety Task Force. I'll be your guide for this presentation. This awareness training is part of a district-wide initiative to ensure that all LAUSD employees clearly understand their duty to protect our students, as well as their individual responsibility as mandated reporters of suspected child abuse. This isn't just district policy, it's also the law. When you finish viewing this short video, you'll know the potential signs of child abuse, how to file a report of suspected child abuse and with what agency, how you are protected when filing a report, and what happens after filing. The one theme that you will hear throughout this presentation is that all employees who have reasonable suspicion that a child is being abused are required to report the suspected abuse. Pursuant to state law and district policy, all district employees are mandated reporters of suspected child abuse.
State law applies to all certificated employees, health practitioners, school police, employees of child care centers, instructional aides and assistants, teachers' aides and assistants, special education aides and assistants, cafeteria staff, buildings and grounds staff, and all other classified employees.
Reporting suspected child abuse to a supervisor, coworker, site administrator, school principal, school counselor, or other person does not substitute for making a mandated report to the appropriate child protective agency.
Any district employee, as a mandated reporter of suspected child abuse, who fails to report any instance of abuse or neglect while knowing or reasonably suspecting abuse or neglect can incur criminal liability of a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment in the county jail for a maximum of 6 months or by a fine up to $1,000 or both. There is also a civil liability which may result in the cost of defense and subsequent related damages the child incurs, if any. Additionally, there is a professional liability which may result in discipline, demotion, or dismissal, and the possible suspension or revocation of credentials.
Will all employees have the same reasonable suspicion?
No, because employees' training, education, and experiences differ. This video focuses primarily on how to report child abuse after there is reasonable suspicion that it may be occurring. The bottom line here is this. If an employee has reasonable suspicion, whether or not others agree, that employee must report it to a child protective agency or local law enforcement agency.
There are several child protective services agencies that can be contacted in the event that you suspect child abuse.
The Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services, or DCFS, County Welfare Department, Local law enforcement agency, police and sheriff's departments, early education centers, and state preschools must also report incidents to Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Office.
Can someone file a report with LA School Police?
No. By law, the LA School Police Department is not a Child Protective Services agency and is not authorized to take reports or to investigate allegations of suspected child abuse or neglect. You must file reports of suspected child abuse with an appropriate Child Protective Services agency.
Are school volunteers considered employees?
No, a volunteer is not an employee. As a result, volunteers are not deemed as mandated reporters of suspected child abuse under the law. However, volunteers are encouraged to obtain training in the identification and reporting of suspected child abuse and neglect. The district encourages volunteers to speak to an administrator promptly regarding any incidents, conduct, or behavior that may be an indication of suspected child abuse, or if the volunteer has any questions.
So what are some of the potential signs of abuse? There are various kinds of abuse, some more obvious than others.
Physical abuse, bruises, welts, burns, or cuts inflicted on a child by other than accidental means by another person. Sexual abuse, sexual assault or sexual exploitation. Consensual, sex or lewd and lascivious conduct based on age, neglect, willful cruelty or unjustifiable punishment. Mental suffering. Reportable victims are anyone under the age of 18.
More on how and where to report it to later. Mandated reporters have state immunity from civil or criminal liability for filing suspected abuse neglect reports. The district will defend its employees who file reports consistent with district policy in the course and scope of their employment against any actions or claims that may result from the reports.
Should a principal provide a teacher class coverage when needed so that the report can be made immediately?
Yes. The law requires that the report be made immediately or as soon as reasonably possible.
If you are unsure about whether or not an incident should be reported, call the Department of Children and Family Services and ask to speak with a Child Protective Services worker. The number to call is 800-540-4000.
You can also call the Los Angeles Police Department at 213-485-4700 and ask for the head detective unit if the abuse unit is closed. Schools not covered by the LAPD can call the LA County Sheriff's Department or the local law enforcement agency serving your school.
Upon witnessing, becoming aware of, or learning about an incident, behavior, or conduct that may be an indication of suspected child abuse, employees are to telephone any Child Protective Services agency immediately or as soon as reasonably possible. Again, these agencies include the Department of Children and Family Services or local law enforcement agencies such as the LAPD, the LA County Sheriff's Department, or the local law enforcement agency serving your school.
Give your full name, business address, and phone number. Identify yourself as a mandated reporter. Provide the child's name, address, school, grade level, class and present location if known, the parent's or guardian's contact information. Provide the information that gave rise to the reasonable suspicion of child abuse, including any sources or witnesses' names and contact information. The names, ages, and any contact information of the alleged perpetrators, if known. For the purpose of filling out the suspected child abuse report form, be sure to obtain and document the following on the form: date and time the telephone report was made, the name of the agency called, contact person's name, the name of the agency person to whom the report was made, their title, position, ID or badge number of the person who took the telephone report. Ask the contact person to read you back your report verbatim to confirm accuracy. Inform the contact person of the time school is dismissed and how the child goes home, by bus, by parent, or by some other means, if you have that information. For your own notes, write down the agency's plan regarding what action will be taken, including when the investigation will occur, if the contact person indicates that an investigation by the agency will occur. Clarify and record the agency's directive as to what the school should or should not do regarding the victim and or alleged perpetrator about the incident. As a reminder, any employee who witnesses, becomes aware of, or are recipients of information regarding an incident, behavior, or conduct that may be an indication of child abuse must make a telephone report immediately or as soon as practically possible. The written report must be filed within 36 hours of witnessing or learning about the abuse.
How many reports are filed if 2 or more employees have reasonable suspicion?
Only 1 report is required.
It is permissible for one person to do the telephone and written reports when more than one employee witnessed or learned about the child abuse neglect. It is suggested that the person filing the report include names of the others who also have reasonable suspicion but are relying on the one report.
When you are reporting an incident of suspected child abuse, remember the following. Keep a copy of the suspected child abuse report form for your records. You may ask the agency for the results of the investigation. Mandated reporters cannot legally be required to disclose their identity to other than child protective agencies. However, employees are requested to mail a copy of the suspected child abuse report, 8572, in a sealed envelope with a flap taped and marked confidential to Education Policy School Services Team, Office of General Counsel, LAUSD, 333 South Beaudry Avenue, 20th floor, Los Angeles, California, 90017. Please remember that mailing a copy of the report is recommended, but not mandatory.
In the event that you are a witness to, become aware of, or are recipients of information regarding an incident, behavior, or conduct that may be an indication of suspected child abuse, and a district employee or other individual who works with or has contact with students on campus is the alleged perpetrator, the following steps must be taken. Make the telephone and written child abuse reports, and notify your supervising administrator immediately of the alleged conduct. Such notification may be spoken or in writing. It is very important that you do not take any actions that are prohibited, illegal under the law, or could in any way impede the agency's investigation. Prohibited actions include the following.
Do not investigate on your own, question witnesses, or obtain written statements. Do not require the child to provide a written statement or to repeat the information to other adults at the site. Do not remove or arrange any clothing on the child to permit a visual inspection of underclothing, breast, buttocks, or genitalia. Do not require the reporter to justify their decision to file or to meet with a parent or alleged perpetrator named in the report. Do not contact the alleged victim's home or alleged perpetrator prior to making the report if abuse is suspected. Do not contact the reportable victim's home or the alleged perpetrator's home after the report is made unless approval is obtained from the investigating agency or until the agency's investigation has been completed. Do not report the abuse to school police, and do not keep a log of child abuse reports.
At times, school and district employees may be required to make physical contact with a child in order to prevent the student from harming themselves or others. The following are some examples of incidents that are not considered abuse.
Using reasonable force to quell a disturbance threatening physical injury to another person or damage to property, self-defense, or to obtain possession of weapons or other dangerous objects within the control of the student. A mutual fight or altercation between minors, Pregnancy in and of itself, unless you suspect sexual abuse or coercion, one of the partners is under 14 or over 21.
Are child abuse reports confidential?
Yes, they are confidential as to the mandated reporter.
Contents of a child abuse report, including the identity of the reporter, are confidential unless it is a situation in which disclosure is required or authorized by law. The information in a report is disclosed only between child protective agencies, legal counsel representing the agency or the district attorney in a criminal investigation, the licensing agency if the alleged abuse is in out-of-home care, the Department of Social Services for early education centers and state preschool programs by court order, when the reporter waives confidentiality, including a limited waiver by reporting to a school site administrator or other district official.
Any violation of the confidentiality of abuse neglect report or reporter may be a misdemeanor punishable by up to 6 months in jail or a fine of $1,000, or by both jail and a fine.
If the parent or guardian asks questions about the incident or report, inform them that school personnel are not at liberty to discuss child abuse reports. You may explain the district's general child abuse reporting policy, but give no details on this or other incidents. You may, however, refer them to the investigating agency. The investigating agency is required to contact the family regarding temporary custody or the location of the victim. If the agency fails to do this, the school may give the parent or guardian the contact information for the Child Protective Services Agency's representative. The agency may interview during school hours on school premises if the abuse neglect took place in the home or out-of-home care facility. A school must allow the alleged victim the option to be interviewed in private or to select any adult member of the school staff to sit in on the interview. The staff member may decline this request. The agency may take the alleged victim into temporary protective custody without a court order. They may also review only those pupil records relevant to the investigation of suspected child abuse. Remember, one of the most essential tasks of district employees is to ensure the safety, welfare, and well-being of our students. Thank you for your continued commitment to the students of the Los Angeles Unified School District. If you have any questions about anything in this video presentation or need assistance in filing a report of suspected child abuse, please contact your principal, administrator, supervisor, or unit head. For additional school safety information on child abuse and other safety-related information, we encourage you to visit schoolsafety.lausd.net. Thank you.